Victoria Garrick was born on April 30th, 1997. When Garrick started playing volleyball in 8th grade, she wasn't good. She was put on the worst club team in her level, but her enthusiasm and determination carried her and she rose through the levels. During her 16th year, she began contacting schools to get recruited. Garrick's dream was to play at USC, but when she told her coaches this, they advised her to get more realistic goals. This didn't go over well.
I was not a top recruit, and no lists, magazines, or websites cited me as a player that would be good at the next level. When I told my high school coach I was switching to libero in hopes of playing at USC, he said, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard." When I told my volleyball advisor that USC was my dream school, he looked me in the eye and said, "You would be a punching bag in that gym." But as my teammates could predict, I heard all of that and thought to myself, what a great challenge. Months of emails and calls with no response from USC were not getting me down. I was relentless in pursuit. So then after 3 years of attending the USC volleyball camp, sending an overflow of emails, and getting a few looks here and there, Mick Haley offered me a spot as a walk-on libero for the 2015 team.
Garrick's expectations were low, but during the first game of her freshman year, her career would change forever.
It was our first game of the season against North Carolina. The team had lost to them in the tournament the year before, so it was going to be a big matchup. With 45 minutes before game time on the clock, Mick announced we'd be starting in rotation 2, adding, "Victoria, I'm not sure if we're going to start you as a DS or not, we'll just have to see." My whole family was there in support, excited to watch me just suit up and stand on the sidelines. So was I. Then when the national anthem ended, Leland had called out the lineup, and I found myself standing on the court. The rest of my 4 years here surpassed my wildest dreams. 2 Elite Eight finishes, a Pac-12 championship, and finishing the top 5 career digs ladder alongside amazing women whom I still idolize. Being on this team was one of the greatest opportunities and experiences I will ever have. There's truly an indescribable feeling that comes along with wearing a USC volleyball jersey.
Despite all of the success that Garrick had had over her 4 years at USC, she heavily struggled with mental health, specifically with an eating disorder and depression. When Garrick arrived at USC, her insane practice schedule and pressure to perform led to enormous amounts of stress. This, coupled with the restrictive diet she put herself on to stop gaining weight, led to her unhealthy relationship with food.
So if we add up that stress with my restriction and the counting calories and the dieting like I was about to start, we're gonna get a problem. And that's exactly what happened for me.
Garrick continued restricting more and more until she would heavily restrict during the day and completely binge at night.
At night, I would eat food again and have all this guilt and shame and be so upset with myself and then restrict. And so this cycle continued, and as it went on, it just got worse and worse and worse in the sense of it was like, okay, we're eating less today. We're barely eating things, and then we're gonna, at night, eat a lot of food. And eventually this turned into binging.
One of Garrick's biggest aids in her recovery was the book Breaking Free from Emotional Eating by Janine Roth. Garrick attributed a large part of her recovery to this book and its view of intuitive mindful eating what your body wants, when it wants it, and not restricting.
I had never let myself have a voice and say, no, this is what I want. And actually, I'm not hungry. Or actually, that doesn't sound good to me. I want to eat this thing and I'm going to let myself eat it. And so that is, like, in a nutshell, just giving you the gist of mindful intuitive eating. It is listening to your body and your body's wants, and also your emotional wants and your physical needs and what the nutrients are, and then making a really good and healthy choice for yourself. And this is the best thing I ever did for myself. It's how I eat now, and I have the healthiest relationship with food.
In 2017, Garrick gave a TED Talk titled Athletes and Mental Health: The Hidden Opponent, where she opened up about her own struggles with depression, in addition to spreading light on the importance of mental health, especially in athletes.
And because I didn't think I could have any of these illnesses because I was an athlete, I battled depression for half a year without even knowing I was. And what happened was there was this girl who wasn't supposed to do anything, who now has a role on what at the time was the #1 team in the nation. Mentally, I started on this high, right, because I was living my dream. But all of a sudden, I began to feel differently. I became anxious, more anxious than I'd ever felt before. I had 5 alarms to make sure I was never late, but I never even used the 5 alarms because I woke up at 7:15 anyways due to my anxiety over being late. And I worried about my athletic performance constantly. On game days, I worried. What if I don't play well tonight? What if the coaches bench me? What if my passing sucks? What if I didn't study the scout enough? There were times I would feel this knot in my stomach and my skin start to crawl and my hands start to shake and eyes well with tears because I was so afraid to play and make a mistake. Because at an elite level, mistakes are costly. And on top of it, I had school and exams and family and a social life, and I couldn't handle everything coming at me so fast and just piling up at one time.
Garrick had statistics about just how common mental health issues are in athletes, even though they continue to go unreported. Through the TED Talk, she hopes that athletes' mental health will become more recognized and be a bigger topic of discussion.
I did my own survey to show you guys that this is an epidemic. I surveyed 100 men and women from Division I schools like Stanford, Oregon, Washington, UCLA, you name it. And this is what I found. When asked if they'd ever experienced symptoms of depression or anxiety, 69% said yes. The statistic I gave you in the beginning was 25. When asked if they think the amount of time they need to spend on their sport is too much, more than half said yes, almost at 90%. And the next one honestly devastated me when the results came in and it kept me up for a few days. I asked them, have you ever felt you experienced anxiety, depression, or an eating disorder, but were too afraid to tell anyone? More than half. That means those athletes today are somewhere and no one knows that they're struggling.
Garrick uses a variety of social media platforms, including Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and her podcast Real Talk, to reach athletes and non-athletes everywhere, making them feel heard and accepted, while sharing ways to overcome their mental health struggles in addition to promoting body positivity.
Bodies that look like this also look like this. Bodies that look like this also look like this. Backs that look like this also look like this. Bodies that look like this also look like this. Stomachs that look like this also look like this. And it is normal, safe, and preferable that your body makes bulges and rolls as it moves around to allow you the best range of motion that you can have.
Garrick is not only an extraordinary athlete, but a voice for a cause that doesn't get the attention it deserves: mental health, specifically in athletes. Garrick's story is filled with struggle and success and shows people everywhere that it's okay to not always be perfect.